Hello, thank you for taking the time to show up today for our very last video in this Secrets to Impactful Cueing series. I really appreciate your time and the energy you've put into this, and I hope that you are feeling proud of your efforts too. I know that it's not always easy to make time for new things in our busy lives, which is why I just want to get straight into the good stuff and continue from where we left off yesterday. So what is preventing your students from being empowered and exploring their yoga practice with curiosity? Well, there are two things that can get in the way. And the first is a little thing called
herd mentality.
That's a Y. Herd mentality. Herd mentality is a tendency to follow the herd and the pack leader without much thought in order to fulfill a biological need of survival. But as you know, yoga isn't about surviving. It's about, and look, this sounds really cliche, but it's about thriving, right? So it makes it even more important that you deliver your cues with even more of an emphasis on these two things here so that you can help your students override the tendency to practice in survival mode. Now, you wouldn't think that this would happen in a yoga class, this tendency to herd mentality, but I'm sure you've seen it go down time and time again with your own eyes, where your students are like mysteriously or magnetically pulled towards ignoring their own needs, despite what you tell them, and doing what everyone else around them is doing or copying you as the teacher. So how do you remedy this? Well, in my experience, sugarcoating things and like beating around the bush has never been a solution to creating personal empowerment. In fact, it does the opposite. Remember that knowledge is power. Knowing is empowering. So just speak frankly to your students about it and you'll find a way to thread it into your classes. Awareness of this type of thing will help you adapt your cues to encourage your students to understand that more benefits actually exist when they tap into their own personal needs and desires rather than the benefits that come from adhering to what the group is doing or what the teacher is doing. Now, this is really important to understand from a psychology perspective because a lot of our societal conditioning and programming that we have been exposed to in life, it definitely transfers over into our yoga practice. Now, this was all about the way that your students' tendencies can prevent them from being empowered and being curious in their practice. But the second thing is all about you and the way that you deliver your cues. And that thing is delivering cues with a bias. Now, there are certain popular yoga words and phrases that will actually perpetuate your students' tendency towards herd mentality and prevent them from being empowered and curious because they highlight that one way of doing something is better or more superior than another. And I'm going to give you one example of this. And this phrase is, to go deeper, do XYZ. You can fill in the blank. Although well-intended, this phrase doesn't actually help your students consider their personal needs. I mean, of course your students want to go deeper because most of them are going to be under the impression that more depth equals more benefits. What student wouldn't want to get more benefits, right? No one wants to waste their precious time and money and energy getting less benefits. So if they aren't able or they don't feel that it's actually right for them to do the action or take the position that you just labeled as going deeper, then they'll think that they aren't getting the benefits and they will end up doing one of these two things. Either they will just conform, yes, despite it not being right for them, and do the thing that you're telling them is the deeper option, or they won't conform and they will stick with what they know is right for them, but they will still feel this underlying sense of inadequacy within themselves. Now, this doesn't mean that you don't ever reference depth in your classes. It just means that you deliver the invitation to explore depth with a little bit more context to create an impactful cue that is empowering and fosters curiosity. So an example of this, let's say, is in a seated forward fold. You could say, if you want to explore a layer of depth that can target the hamstrings more, Notice how it feels when you grab your big toes and pull in this pose. Or you could say something like, find your own personal depth by playing around with various positions of your legs or of your feet. Now, your students will respond totally differently when you give more context to what you're saying. These type of specific cues and this approach really helps you have a more profound influence on the way that your students listen to their bodies, because they start to begin to understand that like one universal idyllic way of doing a pose is not more superior to another. And in fact, hopefully they will think that it just doesn't even exist. They will be more inclined to become the pioneer of their own ship and really discover what works best for them. I always like to remind myself as a teacher that right and wrong only exist within the context of what a person wants to achieve. Now, despite any previous teaching experience that you have or additional teacher training courses that you might have done, I can absolutely assure you that I have no doubt that your passion and your purpose as an impactful yoga teacher will be greatly elevated by everything that we have covered here. And you'll be able to help guide your students in all of their diverse needs within any type of class size with your impactful cueing. One of the women who did a teacher mentorship with me, Chelsea, she came to me because she felt ill-equipped to meet the diverse needs of her students once she had completed her teacher training course. And she enrolled in the program that I have, and she gained the skills and the tools needed to really adapt to any situation. And today, she feels really fulfilled and successful in her role as a yoga teacher, and she is a very impactful teacher. I love taking her classes. Now, you might be thinking, this is all so great, Janelle, but how on earth am I meant to integrate all of these wonderful things into my teaching? All of these things are the theory, right? But what I have for you tomorrow is one final email with a very special surprise offer that is available only to those of you who have joined this series. And it's super powerful to teach you how to put these secrets, this theory into actionable steps. I'm really excited to share it with you because I've seen it work with so many other teachers. So keep your eyes open for tomorrow's special video, and I will see you then.